2014 was like, okay, I want to retire myself. And my doctor says, how are you going to do that? And I said, I'm just going to do it. When are you going to retire? And I said, oh, within a year. And I did retire exactly within a year. I only had like $10 in my account. And I was just waiting for the next paycheck to pay my bills. Of course, I was fearful, but I didn't really think that out loud because the fears come at us all the time. It's just what we do with our fear as they come, right?
Yeah.
First, I was scared, but I thought for me to invest in myself, I have to get those things out of my mind and I have to start taking actions. If we don't invest in ourselves, who's going to invest in you?
Hello, amazing humans, and welcome to episode number 281 of the Game On Girlfriend podcast. So, what causes people to change? Have you ever wondered this? Like maybe you've noticed your own bad habits. You tried to quit smoking. You're trying to save money. You're trying to be more active, and you don't. It's like we're humans. We have a really tough time actually shifting who we're being and how we're walking through the world, right? It's like, how many times have you seen a friend like really transform something and we're all a little bit shocked? Like, how did they do that? Well, if that has been your feeling, you are going to love today's episode with Sun Yong Kim. She is so wonderful, and what a warm heart and what a beautiful journey this woman has had. We'll talk about that more in just a minute. But for right now, I hope you really pay attention. When I ask her, how did she retire when she did not have retirement savings? What caused her to change so quickly? The answer is one that I touched on the very first podcast episode of the Game On Girlfriend podcast when I said, don't live a life of almosts. And she talked about how many times she herself had heard, I'll get to that tomorrow. I'll do that later. And then one day, later was now. Sun Yong Kim-Manzolini was born in South Korea and abandoned at birth by her family. She spent her early years in an orphanage, enduring hardships that she likens to living in a modern-day concentration camp. At 14, she was adopted by an American family, beginning a new journey filled with its own challenges and unknowns. And today, Sun Yong is a highly successful seven-figure entrepreneur and the CEO of Lush Enterprises, LLC. She's passionate about empowering others, particularly single mothers, by teaching her unique miracle system for options trading. We love this. Her method allows individuals to achieve financial freedom, spend less time working, and focus on what truly matters. In 2015, she retired from a $35,000 a year job with no savings and limited resources. But determined to change her circumstances, she dedicated herself to options tradings, and by the end of her first year, she had earned $178,000, 6 times her previous annual revenue. She believes that true freedom comes from living authentically, pursuing dreams without fear, and achieving financial security. Now, what you're going to hear in this podcast episode is not her options trading method. We didn't touch on that, but I do highly recommend that you check out her website, see what she's doing. Those links are underneath this video if you're watching, or in the show notes if you're listening in. And what I hope you notice is how she dealt with the fear she had to face, the thoughts that came in, and what she did to alter those so that she could start living life on her own terms. Very simple steps that have profound effects. Pop in those earphones and let's get to it. Sun Yong, welcome to the Game On Girlfriend podcast. I'm looking forward to speaking with you today. This is going to be so fun.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate being here. I'm excited to be at the Game On Girlfriend podcast. Is just so exciting. Good name. I love it. I love it.
It's so good. Well, it's so fun when you've been watching a podcast to actually get to like participate, right? It's really fun. I know.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
We're so lucky to have so many good people like you reaching out and getting on the show. We love this. I have shared your bio with everybody. We know who we're listening to. We're already all in love with you. But before we dive into all of the tips and all of the beliefs that you have about the importance of investing in ourselves, out of all the things that you could have done on this earth, all of the things that you've experienced personally, all of the different ways your life could have gone, right? Out of all of these pathways, why is helping us invest in ourselves what you do today?
Wow, that's such a big question. And, I have pondered that too in the beginning, but first part of my life, I never even that wasn't even in my mind at all, And I felt like the way I grew up, because I was raised an orphan. And so being orphan I had this sense of like abandonment issue where the word like who wants to nobody invested in me,
Mm,
like they abandoned me instead of
mm,
investing in me, right? But then when I was adopted at age 14 by an American family, and I thought, they invested in me knowing what I was like. I was basically like adopted under special needs child. And so as coming to America, as learning the English to communicate and all those things, and I thought, I was just doing things just like what anybody would do. You just want to learn the English so you could communicate with people. When I'm hungry, I want to be able to tell my mom, so I'm hungry, right? And those things. But after I went to school to become a certified medical assistant, and then I loved my job and everything, but
mm.
same token, I thought, you know what? I really don't get to talk to my patients about who I really am.
Oh, wow.
So when they came and saw my doctor that I was working for,
Mm.
I got to hear their, problems and their stories and everything. And because it was my dream job, that, I loved it. So my attitude, my happiness was just like, all over spreading everybody. And I felt it myself, right?
Right.
But then I thought to myself, I really need to talk about me, meaning, how did I get here?
Mm.
Why did I come at this point of, place? And so that's when I started investing myself by saying, I'm going to retire, even though it was my dream job. And I thought, I'm going to retire. And that was the beginning of me wanting to invest in myself,
Wow.
you
Wow.
know? And I said, oh my gosh. And so, and I saw so many patients were, retiring at an age and then they were just really deteriorating. And I thought,
Yeah.
well, who says I could not retire? I have no money and I was living paycheck to paycheck.
Hmm.
It was my dream job. And so it was really hard for me to really think about retiring. But I saw the alternatives. Like I was making my dream income, even though it was my dream income, my dream job, but no dream income. And
Yes.
I was not able to, I wanted to create that. And that means I had to invest in myself. And so beginning of thinking 2014 was like, okay, I want to retire myself. And my doctor says, how are you going to do that? And I said, I'm just going to do it. And it's interesting.
I got
And he
chills.
says, when are you going to retire? And I said, oh, within a year. And I did retire exactly within a year.
Oh my
And
God.
I only had like $10 in my account. And I was just waiting for the next paycheck to pay my bills. But I didn't really worry about, what ifs or, of course I was fearful, but I didn't really think that out loud, because the fears come at us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what we do with our fear as they come, right? Of
Yeah.
course, I was scared, but I thought for me to invest in myself, I have to get those things out of my mind and I have to start taking actions. So that's the beginning of investing in ourselves. And it is very, very critical. The reason is because if we don't invest in ourselves, who's going to invest in you?
Mm, mm,
You
mm.
know, I mean, there are some parents, they'll say, I've done this too, I'm guilty of it. Like we pay so much money to invest in our kids,
Yeah.
right? Try different sports and try different things. And so hopefully they'll like it and they'll, become somebody, they love what they're doing and making good money and all that. But so as a mother, I'm guilty of that. But especially when you're a mother and you're a career woman, we have invested in ourselves, being married and becoming a wife and a mother and everything. And also working for a company, we invest in ourselves in a company, right? Working and everything. But if you want to just not want to stay working 9 to 5 and being stuck, then you have to kind of think outside the box and say, okay, I'm going to invest myself and therefore I'm going to retire. And you start finding a ways to just do it. And there's all kinds of excuses and reasons why I shouldn't. Even, in fact, my kids, they're like, Mom, what are you going to do when you retire? It's like, you've done this and you love this job. All of your patients love you, and I
Mm,
said, I know. But the fact that when people don't understand what it takes to start wanting to invest in yourself, is just a whole different ball game.
It is.
So it's a very, very, it's been very fun journey. It's just like talking about your ugly part of the stories and the stories that you never want to talk about. Because I never got to tell my patients about, like, who I really am, how, where, or who I was raised as an orphan or anything like that. I just got to listen to their stories and make them happy and trying to make them feel good. But I was very happy to serve them. But I have to really learn to serve myself, talking about my own story.
Wow.
And it starts from there. Just talk about the things that you were just really don't want to share with other people. And when you start talking about it, and you're like, you know what? Like that story that I've been hiding for so many
Mm,
years,
mm,
I don't dare to talk about. But when you're learning to invest in yourself, it's critical that you have to really talk about all ugly and good stories about everything about you. You have to get it out, right? But I think that investing in yourself is very critical because we do it like every day, like I do it every day when I get out of bed, for example, like I take a bath, and put a makeup on.
mm,
That is the starting of your investment in yourself because I'm not going to meet everybody every day. It's not like I have agenda every single day. And so, okay, I'm going to meet 30 people, right?
mhm.
Some days I have an interview. Some days I, have a classes I teach and things like that. But the days, even on the weekends, like I don't have to meet anybody. I still treat it daily like if it was like my best day, investing in myself by just, making sure that I feel very my best you
Mhm,
know, the way
mhm.
we put our clothes on and the
Yes.
way we talk to ourselves. And, the world is all about like, we have to sell ourselves to other people, right?
Yeah.
And who is the best person to sell yourself? It's you,
Mhm.
myself, right? And so I think investing in yourself is just hard to do because we have all these negative things, all these things that we've been hearing that we faced, and then we're like, I
Mm.
can't invest myself. I'm not worthy to
I'm
invest
not worth
myself
it.
to
Mhm.
do that.
Yeah.
That's because we're focusing on all the negative things.
Mm.
And so just kind of when I wrote the book called Invest in Yourself is because I put up with all this, I've used all these excuses. Like I said, oh, I'm going to do this after my kids grow up. I'm going to do this after I get married. I'm going to do this after I
Mhm.
retire. So I've used all these excuses like, oh, not now. Oh, next year. Oh,
Mhm.
next month. You know, so the year came by, 5 years later, 10 years later, same thing. I mean, I've been at my career for 33 years, So all those years, look, I've been using excuse like, oh, someday,
Yeah.
now, you know. And so because I used all that excuses and I told myself and I'd say, you know what? It's time to invest in myself and I'm gonna do it now. And I have to take actions now
Mm.
because I've
Mm.
been putting it off for so long, so
Yeah.
many years.
What do you think triggered that for you? Like, how did you go from, I always love the joke we coaches say, right? Is like someday is not on the calendar. Like there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's no
That's
someday,
right.
right? It's the coach joke. But it's like, how did you figure that out? Like, what had you say to that doctor? No, it will be a year from now. I'm gonna do it. What do you think changed in you to
Mhm.
flip that switch?
It was very easy because I was able to witness some of my patients. Now, you've been with, I've worked for doctors for 33 years, but one particular doctor, he was an internal medicine doctor, and I've been with him for 20 years. And so I saw, patients that were in their 60s, and now 20 years later was 80. Patients that were, like 70, now it's like 90, right? So
Mhm.
20 years later, and I've been watching these patients weekly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis. And I was watching them and I learned so much from my patients. Like I'm so grateful. If
Mm,
it was my dream job, but I got more than that I ever bargained for because I have learned so many life lessons. Like it's just like crazy.
I believe
And
it.
it helped
Yeah.
me to decide, that turning point, where
Mm,
it's like, I want to retire. The reason is because as I was watching my patients so closely, because I love them, we're like families, right? We talk about all kinds of, family things and, good or bad. And I just got really close to them. And I was watching them, and some of them were struggling as they got, getting towards age of retiring, or even after retire, they were deteriorating. So I had all kinds of patients that are different age groups, and being an internal medicine, are like 80% of our patients were like, seniors, right?
Yeah.
Um, but when they retired or they were looking to retire, and like I said, I've seen all kinds of stories, and let me just kind of give you examples.
Okay.
One of the ladies, she was in her 80s, and one day she came to me, was seeing the doctor, and we were just talking, and she says, Sun Yong. I said, yes. She says, I can't even comb my hair.
Ah.
I can't even put my shirt over my head or put bra
Mm-hmm.
on. I said, well, why? And she says, well, it hurts. It hurts. And I said, really? And I said, well, did you fall? And she says, no. And I said, okay, well, you didn't fall. So I was trying to figure out why, she wasn't having a hard time like combing her hair and things
Mm-hmm.
without a pain. So then she says, no. And I said, okay. So then that tells me that you have to move those muscles, because maybe your shoulder is frozen because, you haven't used it.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
told her that, and she goes, oh, yeah. So she goes, you might be right. So then she goes, I'll try that. So she went home and tried that. And a month later came back, and she goes, oh my gosh. She goes, I could use my arms again, like I could do the things that I used to do. And some of other patients where they were near retiring age, and once they retired and they were spending all their retirement time, instead of going on vacations,
Yeah.
they would go to the doctor's offices for either for themselves or for their spouses. And the
Mm-hmm.
money that they were spending, even though they had an insurance, but there's a co-pays and things. And so they were spending the money that they saved and the time,
Mm.
the retirement. And by the time they retire, it was like they were too sick to enjoy,
Oh my God. Boy,
you
that
know.
is a life lesson.
And
So,
so those are the things. And
yeah.
then some patients, like, they retired and then they didn't have like a self-motivation, so they have to have like a schedule, you know what I mean? Like they have to have a
Mm-hmm.
daily task. And so
Yeah.
they would retire. And then there's like, so now we both of us decided to go back to work. And I said, why? Didn't you wait for you to retire for like 20, 30, 40 years? And then you retired and then you went back to work? Because we're bored. We're bored.
Bored. So,
And
okay.
so,
So
so
you,
all these things that kind of put
uh-huh.
together is like, you know what? I'm not going to wait till I get to be like retirement age, which is like nowadays, what, 65 or close to 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
I might be too sick. I might be exhausted, you
Mm.
know? And so I thought I'm going to retire when I'm still healthy, that I could still, you know what I mean, enjoy
Mhm.
life, even though it was my dream job, but it was important for me to retire because I didn't want to fall into that category of those patients that I've
Yeah.
seen with my own eyes.
Well, okay. So you definitely answered that question then, because I mean, it is hard for people to switch from like, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it next month, I'll do it next year, I'll do it
Yes,
when dot,
yes,
dot, dot.
yes,
But to actually have the ability to see what happens when you put things off in your face every day with people
yes,
you love and that you care
yes,
about.
yes,
And that, I know, again, we coaches, we call that mortality motivation.
that's
And that
right.
we can really get complacent, can't we? We can just think, oh, it's fine tomorrow. Oh, it's fine
Yeah.
tomorrow. I'll always have the time. And, that is not true.
That
That is
tomorrow
an
turns into,
illusion. Yeah,
yeah, that tomorrow turns into sometimes like 10 years later
that's
or
right.
20, 30 years, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Or something changes
That's right.
dramatically and we
Something
can't do
drastically.
it. And
Yes.
yeah, this is so important. So when you said at first, when I asked the question, how did you flip this switch? You're like, oh, it was easy. I
Yeah.
was like, what? What? Say more things. Cause there's so much, right? As a coach, my job is to motivate people, right? And
Yes.
it's like, there's so many times it's like, what is going to motivate you? But I can get seeing people go through different ways, right? Deteriorating, getting bored, needing more money, not being able
That's
to
right.
enjoy time off. Those things are just so critical to our joy and our happiness and our reason for being alive. And
Yes.
so I can really see how this started to shape your mission to
Yes.
really talk to people about investing in themselves. Like this makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. And you
Yes.
have like the street cred, if I can say that, to really back it up from being raised as an orphan,
Mm-hmm.
right? Little did you know how much your life would change at 14. What it took for you as a human being to change as you moved to the States and what happened. And then to find your dream job only to watch other people as they aged. I just think, wow, what a journey. Honestly, what a journey. I can get how this happened for you. I really
It's
can.
been a fun
Yeah.
journey. I would never, go back any other way, even though like my life is like I'm living my dream life. But
Mhm.
had I not worked in the field that I worked in, I would still be working. Seriously.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would
No, I
still be
believe you.
working.
Yeah. I get that. I really get that. Okay. So I want to go back to something you said that I thought was really interesting.
Yes.
And that is encouraging us
Mm-hmm.
to invest in ourselves by talking about
Mm-hmm.
the not so great times.
Yes.
Why do you think that's important? How should people go about that? Because I know because I speak in public all the time and I'm very careful to only share the dark side of my life, right? Once I've really healed it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was always taught as a speaker is we share from scars, right? Once
Mm-hmm.
something's healed, we
That's
don't
right.
share from wounds that are still
Uh,
open that we're still working on.
That's right.
How did you figure that out? And how do you talk to people about sharing those parts of their lives?
Wow. Well, that's very, it was, it was very, very mind-changing time for
Mm,
me because you think about this, my patients never knew the things that, like, I used to never talk or smile at anybody for first 14 years of my life.
right. Got it.
Well, because, never, because there's so many different issues, right? Like I was abandoned, so I don't trust anybody. And
Mm,
who could love me the way I am? Because, there's a witness, that family, birth family, abandoned and everything. So I did not speak or smile at anybody. And now, like, I can't stop talking and I cannot stop smiling.
mm,
And and I think it's important that once we healed, we talk to people and helping them by how we learned
mm,
to
mm,
become where we are today. And so going back to the invest in yourself is like, if you can invest in yourself, you can help other people. So like, in other words, like if I can't do these things for me, the way how I talk about positive things about me, even though the negative things were there, but that's not who I am. That's not who I was, right? I'm no longer orphan, right?
got it.
And a lot of
Yeah.
times we hang on to this thing like, oh, I'm an orphan. Well, I'm not. That was like, many years ago.
Yeah.
So we have to let go of the things that we used to be,
Mm,
especially when we have overcome and we heal those things like you talked about.
mhm, mhm.
And we have to talk about like where we're going from now, like, from here to even tomorrow. And it takes a lot of little steps, daily steps, So like invest in yourself is not just talking points about like switching your mindset or learning or doing something different from the experience that like I learned, because that was a part of the things that helped me to wanted to decide that I want to retire. There's lots of other parts that, went into where I retired early, but that's a part of it, not all of it, right? And so who we are, it takes so many different parts of us to become who we are.
Yeah.
Investing with the money, investing within ourselves, investing ourselves mentally, investing in ourselves with the type of people that we hang around,
Mhm.
and then getting rid of the people that are still wanting to live back then, 20, 30
Yes.
years ago, you know?
Yeah.
think about it, that we used to think differently. Like I certainly could say, like right now, like I trust everybody, I forgive everybody, and I love everybody because I learned to do that by investing in myself. By investing in myself, I learned to forgive people. I learned to love myself. And so therefore
Mm,
I could do that. But 20, 30 years ago, I couldn't do that because I
yeah.
haven't gotten to that point yet. So it's very, very critical to do everything ourselves, like, like exercising, for example, like, we're investing in our body, the way we feel mentally and physically, right? And
Hmm.
investing our money with the other investors or within ourselves. That's, because you have to have money because, if you don't invest your money, then you're going to have all kinds of problems if you run out of money. If you don't
Hmm.
have a money, you can't fix
Oh,
problems that you have, right? So having money could solve a lot of problems, but not having enough money could also get you into a lot of, problems,
hmm.
mentally and physically and financially, you name it all. So invest in yourself is like the balanced life, the whole thing together, your mind and your body, your financial, your relationship, just kind of put it all together. It's not just like, oh, I want to invest in myself and I'm going to think positively and I will not do what I have seen. It's not all about that, you
Hmm.
know, but taking all those things put together, but you have to implement it on daily basis,
Hmm.
daily basis. It doesn't happen just weekly or monthly. It has to ingrain in your, like a routine every day,
I
every
love
day.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I really like that idea. And so, how is it? So, let's say someone's listening right now and they're
Yes.
really starting to like be like, wait a minute, I'm not investing in myself very much. And
Mhm. Mhm.
we're not just talking financially, though that is an absolute piece of it. I believe that as well, is that we really
Mhm.
understand that.
Right.
And they're thinking, okay, how do I get started with this? Like, what do I do? I really want to invest
Okay.
in myself. What do I even do? Come on.
Okay.
And they're
Yeah.
like, Sun Yong, what do I do? Step one. Like, what would you
Okay.
say to somebody who's like really interested in this idea? And they're like, I think I've invested in everybody else around me,
Yeah.
but I have not invested in me.
Yeah.
What would you advise them to do today?
I would say if you want to change your life, you have to start act today, right? But you have to think of it as, okay, I am sick of my life the way it's been going. So I must take different actions. I have to do something different, totally different than
Mm,
they have ever done before.
mm,
Because, and then so when they start thinking like that, then there's all kinds of fears, right? Comes up, it's like, oh my gosh, like I want to do something different because I'm sick of this life. That's a part of my retirement. It's like I love my job. It was my dream job, but I was just sick of the routine,
yeah.
knowing that working for another 10, 20 years, I'm not going to get where I want to be
Yes.
mentally in all the aspects, right? So,
Mhm.
so someone that who's thinking about like, what do I do? Well, you need to say, okay, I'm sick of tired of living my life this way. So I'm going to do something different. So it starts with putting a new CD in their brain.
A new record
Because
starts to play. Yeah.
that's right. Because a lot of
Yep.
times we have these old records playing
Mhm.
over and over. Every time I say, I want to do that. Oh, no, you can't do that. You don't have time. Oh, no, where are you going to find the time to do that? You have never done that before. All these old things in your old records playing in your brain, right? And
Mhm.
so you have to say, okay, I'm going to do something different, but I'm going to put a new CD in my brain.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you have to just the way you talk to yourself, the way you talk to other people, the way you act when nobody's watching you within yourself. You got to have that integrity within yourself, right?
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
not so it starts in your, when you wake up in the morning, right? Your husband is still asleep, your kids are still asleep. Like what do I do to invest? Do something different today than what I've done yesterday? Because different reactions going to bring something different results.
Oh my God. I love that question. What can I do differently today than what I did yesterday?
Right.
Oh, oh, that's so good.
And
That's
by
so
doing
good.
the actions,
Yes.
obviously, it's going to bring different results.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
you have to do it every day. So don't make it as like chore because you go, oh, I gotta do this because I've heard somebody, Sun Yong or Sarah or somebody that I've heard motivational speakers say, do this. you have to find your own way of investing yourself,
Yes.
because it's
Yes.
different for everybody. Like some people get motivated by listening to good music or good podcasts. Like your podcast, like I listened to, it was like really good and motivating, right? I love it. But, and some people get motivated by, going to events.
Yes.
It's different for
Hmm.
everyone, right?
Hmm.
And so we can't say, well, I gotta do exactly what they do, because then when they try to copy that, it's not them, different personality, and it's more becomes a more of a overwhelming.
Mm, so
So
true.
you have to be yourself, and so okay, I'm gonna do something different than what I've done yesterday. And then once you have mastered that, right? So let's say you start with like putting a new CD in your brain.
Right.
And so starting today, I'm not going to talk about anything negative about me. Instead, you're going to say, oh my gosh, I'm beautiful. Well,
I
you have to look
love
in the
that.
mirror.
Yeah.
You say, I'm beautiful. Instead of nitpicking the way we look at ourselves in the mirror, and I could nitpick about our face, we all do. Oh
All
my
of
gosh,
us.
I have
Yes.
spots and wrinkles and blah, blah, short eyelashes and Asian eyes and all kinds of things. It goes on and on and on, right? But where's that going to take you? Stay
Right.
depressed, don't want
Right.
to move forward, don't want to invest in yourself because too many things you could find that is, flaws about yourself, right?
Yes.
There's no perfect face, there's no perfect person. So when you put a new CD in your brain to start thinking and talking about how beautiful you are, you're awesome, there's nobody like you, there's only one you,
Mm,
only one.
mm,
Someone could try to duplicate what you do or try to make it look like, whatever. Because there's some people out there, personate, the movie stars, whatever, but inside them, it's not that person. So
mhm.
think about how special you are, and there's only one you, just you're one of a kind in the world, right? And you have to give the best treatment that you could give to yourself
Mm, I
by
love that.
talking positive and looking at, and every time you go, like you wash your hands, and this is some of the exercise that I have, you know, taught my clients, and I practice it with myself and even with my husband and my kids. And being married, sometimes we have arguments and things like that. And I tell my husband, I was like, okay, every time we argue, we just gonna go into the bathroom and then look in the mirror. Or when you have to go to the bathroom, but when you don't have to go to the bathroom, you could make a time to go to the bathroom, and or wherever there's a mirror, and you just tell yourself, like for example, like let's say I said something negative to my husband, it's like made him a little upset, and then he could say, you know what, I'm a good husband. I'm a good looking husband. And what Sun Young said to me, she doesn't mean it. She just said it because she was just upset, and
Yeah.
same for me. It was like, yeah, he made me feel like, I'm not such a good wife, or I'm so beautiful, or, worthy, whatever, and I'm going to say, no, I'm a good wife. I'm a good mother, and I'm, nice looking. And you have to start and
Yeah.
when people have told me that, and I know for this too, by doing it, it's an exercise that you got to do, is it shifts your mindset.
Hmm. Hmm.
And after you're doing that for like daily basis, oh my gosh, even 3 or 4 days later, you feel like you're on top of the world because you're building yourself, you're investing in yourself.
I love it. I
And so
love
when
it.
your mind is like really, you're investing your mind, and then your body posture is going to change
Hmm.
automatically because, oh my gosh, instead of going, you know, it, you
Yes.
don't even have to try to like just start talking positive things about investing in yourself and say, I could do anything I really wanted to. I just have to start taking actions, and I have to take different actions than what I've been doing because
If I want
nothing's going to
something different.
change. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love the simplicity of it too. It's so
Yeah, very simple.
smart.
Those are the
Yeah.
simple exercises that people have told me. It's like, I tried it and it's just great. And people say, like, I read your book and it changed my attitude, the way how I think, how I live my life now.
Mm. Mm, it's so
And
good.
that's the purpose. We don't
Right.
want to really write a
Right.
book or do podcasts or anything unless we could pay forward and make people life change, right?
100%. 100%. And
And like they could listen to your podcast or they could read my book or my podcast, whatever. But if they don't take actions,
it's not going to work. It's not going to
it's not
matter.
gonna work. Yeah, it
Right.
doesn't matter.
You're reminding me a couple years ago, I I took on a challenge, right? Somebody, I don't even remember where I got it from. I wish I could remember. If it was you and you're listening, come take credit. But somebody said, try to go 3 days without saying anything negative about anyone else, either internally or externally. And I was like, whoa. I was stunned at how often I'd be like, son of a gun, did you just cut me off? Like whatever it was, I was like, wow, there's a lot going on in there, Sarah. But like that little shift really changed things for me. And I think you're 100% right about the 3 or 4 days. Like, what a difference. And what a simple thing to do is to go in the
It is.
bathroom, look at yourself, and say something positive when you're feeling yucky. Like, what an amazing shift. And so, so simple.
Yeah.
So, Sun Young, if someone's listening and they're like, I need me some more of her, where can people find you? Where do you hang out on social media and your website?
Well, my website is dreambigsetgoals.club because that's literally what I did is like I dream really big and I like set small goals and achieve them.
Love
And
it.
so that's my website. And I'm at my Instagram and my Facebook, TikTok,
Oh, love
YouTube.
it.
I do have a
Okay.
YouTube channel where I teach people how to invest their money because the part of investing money is like part of investing yourself because
Mhm.
like if you don't have any money, like how can you buy clothes or makeup to make yourself look nice or just those
Or take
things.
a class and learn more
Exactly.
things, right?
And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
No, I
And
got
those
that.
are like tools. And I think of money as like a tool. Like you gotta have more tools to do things.
Yep. 100%. I love this. And I know you also have a free gift for all of our girlfriends listening in. Do I have this right? It's the first chapter of your book. Yeah.
So I think it's a chapter 4.
Chapter 4.
Chapter
Okay. All
4,
right.
because it talks
Awesome.
about the mind, how we are thinking about, new CDs, like putting new mindset, healthy mindset.
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
that's the perfect contribution and addition to today's conversation. I love it so
That's
much. You guys, if you are watching on YouTube, we're going to have that link right underneath this video. For those of you listening in, the link is in the show notes. Go grab it. And Young also did something amazing. And if you decide to
yeah.
purchase the entire book, we have a gift code. It's also in the notes and under this video. You can purchase the whole book for a huge discount, which is so
Yeah.
generous and thoughtful. Thank you so
50%.
much. I
Yes.
really appreciate you spending time with the girlfriends today. It's just been such a joy.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. My pleasure.